Good morning, good evening, wherever you come from. I know it's morning for USA, Singapore, it's evening time, and different parts of the world. Yeah, happy day. Yes. So today's topic, what is it that we're going to cover today? Planning and preparation for live event. Okay. And yes, I'm having my first live event next weekend. It is in Singapore. It is a property event because I also specialize in property, even though some of you know me as a business coach. And that's because that's a specific niche that I've been doing for many, many years. And we have been planning for this live event. So today I wanted to cover this topic because I know some of you are looking at live event on your own and what are the things that you perhaps need to prepare for the event. And I just want to start with this thing. You are never ready for anything in life. What do I mean by that? You can prepare everything ready, but you are never ready until you go to the event. So, however, it is a process of planning, deciding first thing first. The number one thing that you want to do is decide that you want to do it and choose a date, plan it for the date, and then start to work backwards. Why? Because many people say, okay, I'm not ready. So I want to make sure I'm ready before I have the event. My point is, you will never be ready to want to have the event. So always plan for the event date first, then work towards filling up the space. So number one thing before you can have a successful event, it is having the audience. So how to have the audience is to start marketing it and decide, okay, when I first started doing this event, couple of months back, I started in January, late January, to decide that I want to run this event by before Chinese New Year. There was a delay, and it just happened just before Chinese New Year. We ran the first webinar workshop in order to bring in the people to the live event. So when I started the journey, I was thinking at the back of my mind, maybe no one will turn up. All right, that's normal, right? Human, you'll start to think, okay, maybe no one will turn up, but however, show up. So I started doing webinar workshop every week with a target in mind that how many people do I want to bring to this live event. So I decide, okay, then once I went into a couple of webinar workshop, probably the midway through, maybe the third or fourth, I sort of figure out that, hey, every week I have a certain number of people interested in the workshop, which means that I can have X number of people attending the workshop. And I start to decide what is the number that I will put as in a rough target audience to, and then book the venue. Choose the venue first, then book the venue, because based on the number of attendees, then you can decide what kind of venue you want to book, whether it is an office, a co-working space, a hotel, or whatsoever. So venue choice is the next thing. Venue, when you choose a venue, there's different types of consideration. What is this event for? And is it something that you want to work on branding? And if it's a first event, is branding important to you? So of course, personally for me, branding is very important for event, especially if you're running it for the first time. So since branding is a consideration, the choice of venue would reflect on you per se. So we chose a hotel and we started planning, negotiating with different hotels. Okay, so negotiation of venue, number of people, the venue, what type of venue, then you start negotiation. That's a third thing, yeah, that you want to do, the negotiation of venue. And in the midst of all this that's happening at the back end is the other preparation for the event. So for example, we want to know, okay, what are the things that you want to give away during the event for branding purposes? Perhaps you need to prepare a journal or a file, okay, that you want the audience to have to take notes. Since it's a masterclass 2 days event, you want to have something like that so that they can write and keep copious notes of whatever you teach in class, yeah, or some of the reflection they have. So a journal or a file. So same thing from the branding perspective. You want to look at what would they get. So what else? Things like, for example, registration. When they register, name tags is something else that you want to consider. Name tag. Then what kind of name tag? Do you need a lanyard? And why do you need all these broken down into so much detail? Why? Because if it's branding, you want to work on designs of lanyard, the card, the file copy cover, and the detail of even the notes preparation. Are you giving them worksheets to, and do you have to design the worksheets, and will there be branding in the worksheets, etc.? So this is for the event itself. So the prep. What else? Okay, the next thing that's required is in the event, say it's a 2 days or 3 days event, you want to walk through the broad framework. You want to work out a broad framework of what you want to cover in the 2 days event, because you have sold something, right? You have gotten these people to come in for event, whether paid or free. For the 2 days event, you need to have a broad framework of what you want to cover in these 2 days to make it well worth their time, because they're going to spend 2 days of their time in your system learning what you are or exploring what you're going to cover. So you need to make sure that these 2 days is well worth their time. And what's the content of each segment? So you break it out into a framework first. The segment that you want to cover all the 3 things or 5 things or 7 things that you want to cover in the workshop. Of course, there may be people who want to consider to work with you after the event. Then you have to consider, do you want to make an offer at this event? Is there something you want to offer to help them further on in the process? Then you have to consider any other offers that you want to offer for this event, after this event, if they could choose to work with you on what you offer. Okay, this is the event content. Of course, specific to your niche whatsoever, the content will be different for each and every one of the people out there. And what else? So besides all these, there'll be some logistic that you have to cover. I want to cover this because when you plan and prepare for live event, there might be things that, because it's your first time and you have never done it before, you want to know what are the processes required. So which is the reason why I cover this topic today. And now that the market is open, it might be meaningful for some of you to consider doing live events because there's a human connection behind it. So, okay, then let's get down. So you would want to visualize how are you going to run the event during these 2 days. Then that will come with visual, whether you want visual or PowerPoint presentation, whether there's flip charts involved, whether you want to take care of the audio, and how you're going to run the audio system. Because that will determine during the event whether you need crew and how many crew do you need to handle different parts of the process. And if it's a small crew, you might have to make your the running of the event very streamlined. So for example, you might be just a PowerPoint presentation, because then it will be just you and 1 or 2 other people. However, if you need flip charts, you might have to have someone looking after the camera to capture you with the flip chart. And do you need a videographer or photographer? Why? Because you might want to capture some of these assets with you teaching something or what you cover, whether in video or footage, for your further branding, for your further social media sharing, or for your adverts to actually further work on your branding exercise. So these are other components that you have to think through for the entire flow of the process. So what else? What else in this process? It is also about how you want to engage your attendees in the event, and that will go into the type of masterclass, mastermind, or workshops that you have. Do you want them to hold them and do some exercise together? Is there going to be any transformational breakthrough for them before the event? Are you going to work on mindset component, or is it a technical training? Do they need some materials to bring along? Do they need to do research before that? Do they need to bring a calculator? What are the things that you want them to bring for the event? So these are the other additional thought process that you want to work on. What else? Of course, even before this, the back end will be, once you have the graphics done for all your assets, right, that you want to give away. Once those things are done, is being printed, you need to work on timelines. Okay, when you have this entire thought process thought through, is putting in the timeline for everything, because sometimes there's third-party contractors required when you plan for this. Why? For example, when you do a graphic design, you need a third party to do the graphic design. And when we produce the assets, maybe they need printing time. So you need to work backwards and give yourself sufficient time for the production of the assets, so that by the time you come to the event, you have all these things ready on the back end. So this is a whole framework of what you look at. And what else? Of course, the event will not be complete without a marketing process. The marketing process of when you work backwards, you have to start before, and how many do you have to do before that in order to get your audience. This is part of the process that you have to think through as well. And what type of marketing? Would it be a webinar workshop? Will it be a live masterclass? Do you teach something? Or would it be just a call to action via a Facebook ads? Yeah, to take action to come to your workshop. So the marketing strategy behind that will be a part of the process in order to prep and plan for the masterclass. So all in all, this is the short process of planning and designing a live event. So at the end of the day, it is that you need clarity on what you want for your live event, what kind of interaction that you want, branding, and would you be continuing this event again? Of course, if you're not going to repeat this event over and over again, then perhaps you want to save costs. Okay, let's come to costing. So always set a budget for the whole event. Okay, if it's a branding exercise, the first time round, you want to put in a branding assets and things like that, you would have to invest. Then you have to figure out how many attendees do you need in order to break even in your cost. Is it sufficient to break even? Or are you willing to invest more at the very beginning so that you have actually all these assets in place for your future event? So having planning and preparing for a masterclass, for example, or a live event is not just about having the masterclass. It is also knowing the kind of directions you want eventually, meaning whether you want to keep this for a long term, because that will decide whether you want to invest in the prep of the branding. However, if this is a one-off, then maybe you don't even require to do all these planning and prep of assets, etc., because it's going to be a one-time event. And how you want to show up to people is the other focus. I always look at things this way. If you focus on branding yourself, whether it's for this live event, whether this event is going to be repeated or not repeated, you're branding you. You're branding you as a person with expertise, with the logical authority in that space, and that's how you want to show up. So if you are someone like me who believe in investing in your success, in whatever that you do, you will want to consider even expanding the money to invest in the workshop to make it really the best of the best for your audience, because your audience will give you the kind of reward in terms of appreciating your event. It is really well thought and well planned for. So always think of whether you are doing this for yourself, for a life, for a long-term basis, for branding you, rather than just, okay, it's another event, I'll just, prep and plan for it and just run it. So always focus on how you want to show up at the end of the day and who do you want to be at the end of your workshop. Okay, that's all for my very simple, short coverage of planning and preparing for live event. I would love to share the flow with you guys if you're interested. So if you are interested to have a copy of the process, the SOP behind this, I'm happy to share with you. Just go ahead and say me, and our team will reach out to you and give you a short work, a simple workflow of how do you design and plan for your event. And then that will actually give you a simple SOP to progress your planning and your designing of your workshop. I'd love to share more with you. And in many aspects, this is very important for anyone who's interested to do a live event. Of course, if you're interested to do a virtual event, I can do another separate sessions to share with you the prep and the back end, the tech required to do a virtual event. However, I also want to emphasize this. I want to add on the tech component on the live event. Sometimes in the live event, the place itself, the venue itself, do not provide the tech. So you need to know what kind of tech is required. For example, let me just very, very simply put it out here. The tech that's required, of course, is your laptop. If you're doing presentation, normally we'll have a laptop because we need to play audio, visual stuff. Yeah, laptop. Your mic, you might need a lavalier mic, a wireless mic or a handheld mic, yeah, depending on the venue itself. And that is for audio, for you to speak. You will need a clicker for your PowerPoint, okay, to change from slide to slide. And if you are doing recording, then you will need cameras to record you. And if you need cameras to record, you might be using one or two cameras. Then you will need HDMI cable and even the switcher to switch from camera to camera, the tech behind it. Of course, you may say, oh, I'm not a tech person. Neither am I a tech person. But however, if you have your own in-house team, and before your own in-house team is ready, you have to have some knowledge of the kind of setup you need so that you can get the right people to help you. And if you don't have the right in-house team, you cannot always hire. So you will have to ask for quotations from audio, visual people, photographer, videographers, on top of of course, the venue space and what other technical gadgets that you need. You might have to buy them in advance. So the next thing that I will have to do after this, before the event, is to actually run a rehearsal in terms of the technical setup, just in case during the event itself, the setup time is not sufficient. And also, you might not have the right gadget for the connections between your computer and the venue's gadgets as well, technical side of things. Because sometimes for tech, right, the audio and the visual connections may not work for different computers and different venue. Maybe it's too old or too new, whichever the case. So these are the things that you would still need to do prior the event, 1 or 2 days before the event. Do a rehearsal at the venue, check and make sure you have time to buy the respective gadgets that you require for yourself, and make sure you check with the tech people that they have all the gadgets that you require, and make sure you have all the adapters that's necessary to do conversion between different gadgets itself, because they don't talk to each other. Yeah, so nowadays you have wireless, you have cabled ones, and just make sure that all these are provided and you have prepared them. So even for me personally, I have a tech bag, which means I have my own set of actually I have my own set of speaker and mic, just in case anything happened at the venue. I have my own set that I can still continue my own session itself, so that nothing will stop me from producing the event to the best level. So these are the things that for live event you want to plan and prepare and backup. So I want to add on the backup component here as well. I hope this has been useful for those of you who's looking at live event in the short term. This is something that you can consider looking at to think of the workflow. And you can even design the based on what the hotels or the event hall give you. You can look at the plan and decide the positioning of all your respective team and crew. Okay, that's all for today. I hope it has been meaningful. And yeah, and every week will cover something interesting for your business process. Bye for now.